Hello, everybody. You've got David Abrams here along with Todd Brown today, and I really appreciate all of you guys taking some time. I know typically we do these calls on Tuesday, and today I have you guys live here on Friday, and I did it for a special date and time because I wanted to bring Todd on, and right as the E5 program was opening. And for those of you guys that have been following the emails that we've been releasing this week, we are standing really behind the E5 camp program. We're really behind everything that Todd's doing over there. And so I'm really pumped to bring him on today. Now, a couple words before we jump in, and I let Todd kind of take this away. I really feel, I just finished reading Shoe Dog, and it was just such an amazing book by Phil Knight. And it just was such a great reminder about the journey and how, our journey in the entrepreneurial world, our journey in life is everything. And it's that work that we do. It's the lessons that we learn. It's the ups and the downs and how we handle the grit and adversity. That's really makes us who we are. It makes our companies. It allows us to create great things in the end. And I really reflected on that because I look at E5 and I look at what Todd has done. I know it's kind of his lifelong work, and it's something he's spent, years learning and adapting and putting together. It wasn't something that he woke up one day with the knowledge on. This is the end of a long journey, not the end, but like another point in this really great journey, right? And so I was up in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I got to go to an E5 mastermind with Todd with amazing marketers in the room, and everybody was taking notes, including me. And I have a full binder full of notes that I took from this class. It was amazing. And I was blown away by his story. So I'm just super thrilled to have him here today. And Todd, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's hectic right now because you're right in the middle of this E5 launch. So really appreciate you joining me today.
Dude, I'm totally honored, man. I'm so glad to be here, man. Yeah, I think, dude, I think a lot of folks, really, they sometimes look at, let's say, folks like you, me, or other marketers that are kind of out there, that are popular, whatever that means. And they can sometimes look at that group of individuals, look at that group of folks and feel like they're these gurus. They've got this magic, wand. They've got this genius. They've got whatever, and I'll never, and they look at, like, almost put folks on a pedestal. But the reality isn't, let me start with the end kind of, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning, man. Like, I'm just a dude from New Jersey, man, who was a goofball, into my early 20s, man. And then just found something that I became extremely passionate about. And I'm literally good at one thing in my entire life, and that's marketing. Other than that, I'm terrible at everything else. And so I share that just so that everybody, on here knows, I know the best of the best in the world of marketing, the best of the best. And I could tell you for sure, there's very few geniuses out there. And so, yeah, man, for me, dude, I've been doing this for 15 years. I grew up in central New Jersey, grew up in a totally average household. My father worked in Manhattan, commuted every day from New Jersey into the city. My mother worked for an eye doctor. When I was really young, about 10 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And so I struggled throughout my entire schooling. I was thrilled to get C's. You know what I mean? As long as I got C's, I was good to go. And so, of course, I applied to college like a good young dude is supposed to do, and got turned down by all 5 schools that I applied to. Went to community college, and then ended up transferring to Montclair State. Funny thing is, it took me 3 years to get a 2-year degree from the community college, and then it took me another 3 years to finish the rest of the bachelor's degree.
The other two.
Yeah. And so I went through, it took me 6 years to graduate with a 2.1 or some ridiculous thing. And I had gone to school for nutrition just because I was interested in fitness and exercise, and I ended up focusing on nutrition. So when I graduated, the only job that I was able to get was up the road from where I was living, at a health club. And I was only able to get that job because somebody I knew the owner. So I got this job. I ended up having to take a job for $8 an hour. And then to just fast forward a little bit, I was there for many years. While I was there, I met my wife, Kelly. We got married, and kind of quickly we had our first daughter, and then 17 months later, we had our second daughter, Samantha and Gabriella. And, I was kind of like, I was almost, I always wanted more. I always wanted to do something more. I was somewhat, I guess you could say, entrepreneurial when I was a kid. I sold candy out of my locker when I was in 7th grade, and, until I got in trouble for that. But something changed. There was a tragedy struck in my wife's family, and that really changed it all. And, my wife's father, who was a pretty darn successful dude, he was diagnosed with emphysema. And so he had to stop working. Kelly's parents then had to move from New Jersey back to Staten Island. Her mom ended up becoming the primary caregiver. And her father just deteriorated rapidly. And it was, it was terrible. It was gut wrenching. He was walking around, with a thing and oxygen all the time. And I remember feeling like every single time our phone would ring, I dreaded picking it up because I always thought this could be the phone call that her dad passed away. And then, man, one Saturday, Kelly was out taking a walk, and I got the phone call. Only it was not about her dad. It was about her mom. And her mom had suffered a heart attack and passed away. And then we moved her dad down to us to take care of him. And 8 months later, he passed away. And it was then, that I really felt like, I need to take control of my life, man. That's when I really realized, man, that we are not promised tomorrow will be the same as today. And, it was stop delaying life, man. Stop. And for everybody listening and watching, stop delaying life. Stop putting off going for your dream, your business dream, your income dream, your family dream, whatever your dream may be. And so I ended up getting, and there's a cool part to this story that I'll tell you in the end. I ended up getting a direct mail piece from somebody that was selling a marketing program. I had never seen anything like it. And I was enamored with it. Was long copy. And I was just like, holy cow. I ordered this thing. I devoured it. And then I ended up deciding I wanted to try to sell an info product. And my wife gave me her full blessing. And so with 2 little girls at home, working a full-time job, I got up an hour early. I stayed up 2 hours late. I worked on the weekends, and I launched this info business. And, I made a few sales in the first year, but I was just so in love with the idea, and I knew others were making it work. And I said to myself, I know this works. I just obviously haven't figured things out. And so that's when I kind of started to go ahead, man. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, let me stop you on that, because I think what you're talking about, first of all, I love the profound moment, the moment that you recognize your greatness, that you have to live your life. And I just wrote in chat, guys, don't wait for that moment in your life. Take action early. But now you're at this point where you do all the work. And I think this is where so many people fall down, is they spend all the time building their product, doing all these things, and it instantly doesn't click. They only make a couple sales the first year. How do you not give up in that moment? You knew that there was more, that you knew there was more to learn. How did you get that mindset? Because I think that's very unique in the fact that you had the grit to keep going.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've always been somewhat tenacious. I believe that, look, we all put our pants on the same way in the morning, right? One leg at a time. And I share that here because if it works for others, it can work for you, right? And like, I just have always, believed that. I never applied that to school, but, I applied that to athletics. And so I've just always been tenacious. But today, the better lesson, besides being tenacious and dedicated and just realizing that, like, if it's worked for others, it can work for you, is today I understand that in this business, the direct response business, the type of marketing that we do, it's a rarity to have a winner out of the gate. Like, in other words, no matter, like, don't be fooled into thinking that, because I'm, the guy that other top marketers come to for help with their marketing, that I don't have duds. I've had more duds than most people have had total campaigns. And so, out of the gate, you're going to have a tiny, tiny amount of winners. Like, I remember, David, and I might have shared this story, but I remember Agora. So Agora is, almost right around $1 billion a year direct response company today. They publish newsletters, financial newsletters, alternative health. They started off as a small publishing company and grew. And they had a handful of years ago a grand slam home run. They had a promotion called The End of America that did like some 750,000 new buyers. Wow. And I remember I was sitting next to Mark Ford, the man behind Agora, and I said to him,
looks like your internet might have just slowed down there. Let me just grab him.
Never stop.
Let's see what happened. Looks like his webcam just turned off.
Oh, there you go. Yep, I can see you. Yep. He said, we never stop working on promotions. He said, because Todd, 8 out of 10 promotions that we come out with don't work. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. You're talking, right? Call it the Pareto principle flipped. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the beauty of this business, that the beauty of this business is that you could become very wealthy with a 20% success rate on your campaigns. The other thing is know that, you got to learn to, and I don't want to drill down too far in this rabbit hole, but, it's the difference between engineering and optimizing, right? Those are two different steps in the process. You engineer, and then like, in the E5, methodology, you engineer, you evaluate, you get it out in the market, you get metrics back, and based on what the metrics tell you, then you go into enhancing, which really optimizing. Right. And so 2 different stages because they occur at 2 different times. And so that makes sense, man?
Absolutely. It 100% makes sense. And I think, people don't always have that expectation. And I think that's kind of the key thing to take out of it, that even the biggest companies in the world, when they do it, they know it's a numbers game. They know it's playing the percentages, and that you can make and launch a campaign and then you can optimize on it. It's not, it doesn't work out of the gates, we're quitting. We can always optimize. We can always get better. And I love the fact that we stopped and talked about this, because I think this is one of those, major stepping stones and major moments that as an entrepreneur in that journey, you have to bridge that gap and understand that, like, there's going to be moments when you launch something and it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean that your business is going to fail. It just means either optimize or let's re-engineer something else. So just keep going. And I really love that. And so I'll let you continue the journey, but I just wanted to stop and harp on that.
No, I love it. I think that's such a great point, man. I've had, I've had so many, I've had so many duds. I've had duds where I've invested a lot of money. I had a campaign once where I flew a guy out with me to Tennessee, a videographer, for the day. We rented a mansion that we were going to hold I was actually bringing my team in, but I said, you know what? Let's book this thing for like an extra 2 days to do a mastermind. And like, it was a whole big thing. And I got enamored with, I think for most folks, seeing this monster 3-story mansion, 45-person theater room, like 4 different, jacuzzis in this place, 2 arcades, like, and it bombed. It bombed. Right. And this is after, at the time, it was probably after 12 years in this business. And so, it's okay. It's okay. But yeah. And so I ended up kind of starting to really take my studying seriously. with really studying what others were doing that was compelling to me. And let me take a step back for 1 second. I think this is also valuable. When I started my business, I started with $850. That was it. $850. And with that $850, for whatever reason, I formed a corporation, the same corporation that I still use today. So I formed, like an S Corp. I paid for, I set up a merchant account, which back then was like $300. Right. So like, in other words, right, to this day, David, I have never invested another dime of my own personal money into any of my businesses. All the money has been reinvested. For the first year, when I was making money, like I'll tell you about that. The second year when I started, I didn't take a dime out personally. In other words, I continued to work a full-time job and I just reinvested everything right back into the business. But my second year, I generated just about a little bit over 50,000, which was life-changing for me at the time. Like, $1,000 a week for my wife and I was amazing. I remember telling her, I said, Kel, like when I get to $1,000 a week, like we're in like Flynn, you know what I mean? Like that's, and it was amazing. And so because I had two little kids and because my wife, my mom and dad, my sister, her family, they all moved to Florida. So now we were alone in New Jersey and my wife was like, hey, I think I want the kids around family, like we're alone at Thanksgiving in New Jersey. And she was like, I think that you should try to do this full time. And I was terrified. I was terrified because I used to think to myself, well, like, who the heck am I, man? Like, who am I to, like, who am I, But she really, she really was in my corner and made me believe in myself. I ended up leaving the job that I was at for years. And we moved to Florida. And, at first it was amazing. It really was. I was home with my kids. I was sending them off to school. I was eating lunch with my wife. And money was coming in. Like I was working hard, but it was great. It's just, let me see. Did I lose you? There you are. Okay. Oh, is that me or is that you? Oh, are you muted? Oh, there you go.
No, I think it's my internet connection.
Okay.
It just keeps going on and off.
I'm just going to keep going if I see you go off. Okay.
I hear you.
Yeah. And my business just flatlined and it was horrifying. And I was stressed out of my freaking mind. I really was stressed out of my mind because now I had my wife wasn't working. And that's when my good buddy, Rich Scheffren, introduced me to Mark Ford. And some of your audience members may know Mark as under his pen name, Michael Masterson, New York Times, Wall Street Journal bestselling author. As I mentioned, the guy behind Agora. And I ended up, Mark became a mentor to me and became a friend and really opened my eyes to what it is that I was doing wrong, why I was struggling to get conversions and why I was struggling to consistently generate new customers. And he really just taught me front-end marketing to acquire new customers. And, what has evolved into what is today referred to as the E5 camp method. But that's when everything changed for me. That is, my whole life completely changed, and it's like I tell everybody, the moment that you have even one marketing campaign that allows you to acquire new customers from paid traffic, your life will never be the same again because you are then literally able to acquire, you're able to grow a business, grow a list of buyers, grow a list of prospects for free. Right? Like every day it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as that gets bigger, your profits get bigger on the, on the back end. And so, yeah, Mark sent me off on like a multi-year journey, studying, learning, mastering what he called the big marketing idea. And yeah, and then to just put a cap on the story, things were going great. Life was unbelievable. And then my dad tragically passed away. And I really just felt like it was about, I wanted to leave a legacy. And I know that word gets thrown around and it's somewhat cliche, but for me, I really just feel like I look at what I do as I get to change lives, impact lives, really, really help people live a better life. And my vehicle for doing that just so happens to be giving them an effective way to grow their business. And so, like, right, like for me, it became like, look, I'm gonna change lives. And while I can't change lives through my financial planning skills or my helping them build a new house, like I've got no talent in that area, I can change lives by showing people what it is that I learned and developed and mastered over all those years. And that became the E5 Camp Masterclass.
I love that, and it's truly it's inspiring to hear. And I think I've been, and I'm always kind of in this like introspective mode. A lot of times I'll like try to sit and think about what it's all about, and sometimes it's probably too much to think about. But I love the fact that you really found a powerful why in your business, the why that you wake up every day. And I feel sometimes you can get caught in the reality of things like, I'm teaching webinars, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm helping entrepreneurs to grow their businesses, live a better life, do all those things. So your why can be so much deeper. And I mean, what did it take for you to really find that why for you?
Well, it certainly began with the loss of my dad, but I think I just really, like I'm really an introvert by nature. Like, in other words, so I often spend time alone as well, thinking, and really, pondering what is this crazy, world about, and what the heck am I doing sometimes. And I really just found, the more I thought about it, that when I thought about what really gets me excited in what I do, is it like, is it the money? Like, I mean, like, look, man, I'd love to tell you that I am a happier person today than I was when I was making $50,000 a year. I don't know if that'd be true. I really don't. I don't know if, but I realized that what really juiced me up, what really got me excited, was when people were reaching out and telling me like, oh my gosh, dude, my whole life changed because of what you shared with me. Like, there is no better feeling, at least for me, man. There is no better feeling than, like, it could, if I allow myself, now I could be tired from this launch, but if I allowed myself to really ponder it, it could get me emotional over, like, knowing that, how crazy is it that a goofball like me from New Jersey, like I said, just another dude, gets to impact lives, right? Like, through what it is that I'm passionate about. Like, it's an unbelievable honor and blessing and responsibility. And it's amazing. And I really think that everybody else, all of your listeners, all of your viewers, should find that in their business. Like, find that, whether it's, if you're making handmade jewelry, if you're selling salad bowls, it's more. Like, right, it might be about, if you're selling salad bowls, it might be about bringing a love for vegetables and healthy food back into the family. I don't know, but you really need to dig and find that, because when you do, it just changes the work. It's not, to me, it's no longer work. It's what I get to do to impact lives, man. And I just think everybody should experience that.
God, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think we have to be reminded of that it's so easy to get lost in the weeds that we have to, when you guys develop this and when you guys truly find your why, there's going to be those moments of hardship, of the down month, the week that everything seems to go wrong. And this why is so critical because it's going to be the thing that picks you back up.
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of the tactical stuff that I think, first of all, your journey has brought to light so many amazing parts of our journey that we need to learn about. But I think there's a lot of tactical things that you learned along the way too, right? So the E5 method, kind of your life's work there. What were the key things that you think you really took away from all the lessons that you went through? What was it that, you think from a tactical level, you don't have to go into everyone, but like some of the tactical things that really took you from that, couple sales to the 50K year to the expansion into client work into the other things that you were able to do?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So there's been so many, there's been so many, it's crazy, but I'll tell you a few big ones. So, very early on, I got, enamored with copy. I still love copy, copywriting. And so if there was one area of marketing that I studied the most, it was copywriting. And what a lot of, the way a lot of copywriting programs are positioned is that it's salesmanship in print. And so I developed this mindset of I need to sell, right? And selling means talking about the product's benefits, the product's advantages, right? Like what the product will do for you. And what Mark opened my eyes to was that marketing and selling are two very different activities. And I realized then that I'm not a salesperson. You're not a salesperson. We're marketers, not salespeople. And there's a completely different objective between marketing and selling. Selling is all about the product and the features and the advantages and the price and the terms and the bonuses, right? And selling is really what you do when you're talking to somebody who already knows what it is that they want. They already know the type of product that they want. And now they're interested in learning what's better about yours than the others. It's, in your case, it's the individual that's considering some other ridiculous platform. I don't even know what other platforms are out there that do what, Demio does, but and they want to know, man, all right, okay, I want to live stream. I want to do these cool, right. And so what does Demio do that this one doesn't do and vice versa. Right. And that's cool, right? That's right. But that's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the marketplace. Marketing is all about the prospect. It's all about their situation, their needs, their wants, their desires, their fears, the solution that's most appropriate for them. And like Peter Drucker said it best, the job of marketing, the aim of marketing is to make selling superfluous, to make selling unnecessary. And so when you do marketing the right way, you make selling just really all about presenting the offer. And so Mark really opened my eyes to the fact that if you're selling and that's what your copy is and that's what your messages are all about, you're only going to attract a tiny percentage of the market. The big money is going down on that awareness scale, and being able to talk to those people. Well, those people, the people that, let's say right now, they're not even thinking about, doing live streams or live webinars or hybrid versions or replays. They're not even thinking about that. They're not in the hunt for that type of application. That's not even on their mind. But they have a business. How do we get in front of them and how do we grab their attention and how do we lead them to want Demio before we ever even talk about Demio? That's marketing. And so that's the first thing, really realizing that you're not selling, you're marketing. And when you're marketing, you're not talking about the product. You're creating demand for the product. And I'll explain another lesson in a second, which shows you how to do that. That was the first thing. The second thing was when I asked Mark, I said, how did you grow Agora from such a small publishing company to, a behemoth? Today they're almost a $1 billion a year company. Back then they were hundreds of millions. Not that that makes a difference to any of us. But I thought he was going to say copy. I thought he was going to say marketing budget, email list or something like that. That's not at all what he said, right? That's what everybody else that I was trying to learn from would have said. But what he said was that he said, how did we grow Agora? He said, we realized early on that we are really in the idea business. That's the business we are in. As marketers, we are in the business of developing interesting, compelling, startling, arresting, new, unique, fresh, and timely ideas. Ideas that grab the market's attention. Ideas that are different from everybody else. And so Mark really opened my eyes to the fact that behind every headline is an idea. The headline on a sales letter, on a VSL page, the title of your webinar, that is just the vehicle to communicate an underlying idea. And using a headline template like a fill in the blank gig or whatnot, you end up repeating what other people in your marketplace have said. And when you do that, you're not going to stand out. You're not going to stand out in a crowded marketplace. You're not going to get attention in a crowded marketplace. You're not going to create engagement in a marketplace if you're saying the same thing or some version of the same thing of what's already being said to the marketplace. You have to have a new idea, a unique idea, right? And Mark really, taught me the big idea. And then that was what I ended up taking 6 years to learn. I dissected like $92 million plus marketing campaigns. And I found this, this formula, which like I shared with you guys in Orlando. And so that was the second big lesson. Like, all right, it's not about wordsmithing the headline. It's not about, instead of saying how to grow big tomatoes, how to grow huge tomatoes, right? Like that's wordsmithing the same idea. You're taking the same ho-hum idea and you're wordsmithing it, right? That's totally different. So the next thing was,
let me stop you before you go to number 3.
Sure.
Because Kevin here asked a really good question. Are there any new ideas these days? And I think that's a very good question, but I think it's the way we gotta change the way he's thinking about it.
Yeah, so there are always new ideas, and new ideas. Let me say this, because I'm not a creative person. Like I'm not a creative. I don't sit down and just have this flash of inspiration, and like people think that. Right, in the marketplace, like I've done a good job marketing and positioning myself as this. Meanwhile, right, like I can agonize for weeks. There are times when weeks before in order to get it. Ideas are nothing more than seeing combinations between two seemingly disconnected things that others don't see, right? And I'll give you an example in just a minute, but that's all it is. It's just seeing combinations. And I think there's what's the name of the
that book?
Yeah, James Webb Young, I think, is the author. It's something about I can't believe I'm going to blank on this. I'll send you the name of the book.
Was it the little red book?
Yeah.
How to find new ideas?
Yeah, or how to find ideas, or how to find James Webb Young.
Yeah.
James Young Webb. One of those.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah. The best. You'll never need to read another book, and you could read it like I think I read it while I was in the bathroom one day. And that's all it is. It's just finding combinations, seemingly disconnected things, and kind of connecting them and combining them, and so there is an infinite number of big ideas. Remember, a big idea, it's new, it's unique to your market. Doesn't mean that it hasn't been shared before in another market or another setting. It's unique to your prospects. You're not bringing the same message that they've heard already. When you bring the same message that they've heard already, or a variation or a derivative of a message that they've heard already, they experience what I refer to as mental opt-out. That's when they hit your page and they say, oh, that, right? It would be like if what we did, if you and I got together and we said, hey, let's come up with a marketing campaign for Demio. And we said, like the idea was, how to use webinars to grow your business. Well, like like that's an idea that's all over the place. Go to YouTube and search for that idea, right? That's not what's going to get people saying, whoa, what's this? I need to stop and engage. And so,
So you're saying that we should stop that marketing campaign right now?
well, no, you and we'll develop, some crazy big ideas for you guys for sure. But here's a great example of the whole connections thing. So many moons ago, there was a promotion that came out of Stansberry Research. And I tend to refer a lot to Agora. I do a lot of consulting with them today, which is just crazy for me to even think about. And they just put out so many marketing campaigns that it's crazy. Well, years and years ago, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was, when they came out with a promotion that was, there's a new railroad across America and it's making some people extremely rich. And then it was something like, in fact, one ex-bond trader generated $1.3 million every day for the last 536 days straight, something like that. That was the promotion. And it's crazy and like, right? The lesson here is that, first of all, it launched what is today over $100 million a year company, division within Agora. And the promotion was about voice over IP. At the time, voice over IP was starting to spread across the United States. And that promotion was about how the telecommunications industry is about to experience a massive shakeup. And there are some companies that are at the forefront of that with voice over IP technology. And if you know what those companies are, you can stand to, you could possibly make a fortune the way some people made fortunes back when the railroad was being built across the United States. So Porter Stansberry, who wrote that promotion, saw a connection in his mind between the spread of fiber optic cable across the United States and the spread of the railroad across the United States. And the freaking thing killed it. Like, genius. Yeah. There was another promotion a couple of years ago that, right, wrong, or indifferent, let's put our politics aside. I just thought it was so hysterical and brilliant at the same time. There was, from a different division that I do work with, they had this promotion. It was something like Obama's mistress. And then it had something to do, right? And there was this picture of President Obama and he was with somebody and it was like it was totally blacked out. It was a silhouette of like a woman and it was blacked out. And, but really the whole entire promotion, based on this copywriter's perspective, was about President Obama's infatuation with socialism and how he's cheating on the American public with this idea so foreign to the United States. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent. He saw a connection in his mind between this, President Obama's love for socialism and the equivalent of having a mistress. Just a connection, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether we agree or not. It's what I'm trying to share is the connections. And there's so many examples like that that you can see. And we even, if you remind me afterwards, I'll either give you a PDF that you can give your people, or they can download it now on our video series, a 20-page PDF of 20 different big ideas broken down, each one broken down and dissected based on the big idea formula. So you can see in the health arena, in the financial arena, all these different promotions. And so let me give the third, and that'll be the final one. And so the third one also possibly today tied with the big idea as the most valuable lesson I've ever learned, is what I shared with you guys and gals in Orlando. And that is, it's at the heart of the E5 CAM method. And that is understanding the power of the unique mechanism. And the unique mechanism is not something, it's not a term that I invented. It was first talked about by Eugene Schwartz, the author of Breakthrough Advertising. But we've put a spin on it. And I believe it's the spin that has been the game changer for me. So the unique mechanism for all of your viewers is the piece, part, component, process, aspect, or system behind your product or service that delivers the result. It's the thing within your product or service that fulfills on the promise, that gives your prospects the transformation, the outcome, the change in their life. And it is something that every product or service can have, as long as you're not selling a pure commodity like a gallon of gasoline. Even then, there are some examples that I could give of unique mechanisms in gasoline with custom additives. Yeah. Even like, there's, Techron in one of them, why it keeps your engine cleaner because of Techron. Like, that's a goofy example, but it's an example nonetheless. But, once you've identified the unique mechanism within your product or service, the entire marketing game really changes, because then, and this is really the E5 camp method, then what you do is, instead of trying to put together a sales message, a sales pitch for your product or service, you put together an education-based marketing message that proves to your prospect why the unique mechanism is the answer that they've been looking for, why the unique mechanism is the solution. And because the unique mechanism is not your product, it's delivered by your product, it's within your product, but it's not your product, you're not talking about a product. You're educating, you're teaching, you're opening their eyes. So you're delivering valuable information from their perspective. You become a valued resource. You become an expert, an authority in their eyes, and you build goodwill, because instead of pitching, you are teaching. But here's the beauty, and here's where the real magic comes in. By the end of your marketing message, prospects have bought in, so to speak, to the unique mechanism, right? They see it, they get it, they understand why the unique mechanism is what it is that they should be using, that it's the perfect solution, right? And so you've perfectly set up the sale for your product, because now all roads lead to you, meaning they cannot go anywhere else and get the unique mechanism. You just taught them why the unique mechanism is exactly what they want. You proved it. You showed it to them, similar to the way a prosecutor would prove a case in front of a jury. And now at the end, they either buy or they walk away and they can't get it anywhere else. And they know that that's the best solution for their needs right now. And they went through your marketing with no sales filter because you weren't selling. And you just created massive demand for your product before you ever even talked about your product.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you had to follow up with them. They're now looking at you as the expert, and you have the expert knowledge on this unique mechanism. Nobody else can talk about that. That's now your unique mechanism. I love that. And hearing it now, again, I love listening to you talk about it, because every time I hear it, it just makes so many light bulbs in my head go off. And it's like the same brilliance in Orlando that I just wrote so many notes on it and so many ideas. Really, you guys think about this, sit down. And one of the things I think I took away from Orlando was that we had this binder, the E5 method binder, right? So good. But the first, 3 out of 5 steps is really the engineering of your platform. And then it's the creation and then the optimization. But a lot of the upfront time is researching in your space. It's understanding who your avatar is, and it's coming up with these unique mechanisms. What are we going to talk about? Because I think the kind of approach that I've always had that I've done wrong is I focus so much on the product. I focus on the fulfillment, and I focus on, let's sell this thing, and to split it, between marketing and sales, I'm selling it. And I've never really done the approach of how do we market this to people that say, putting their hands up prior to even knowing what the product is, knowing what they're going to get from this product before even being sold anything at all. And I think that's kind of where we fall down. And I love the program so much. I love what you've done with this, and kind of the mindset shifts that you take, because it really does. It's like a marketing boot camp for me. It was like just kind of a revamp of what marketing really is and the principles that are really key to make marketing work. And that's really what I take from those 3 steps. So I hope you guys wrote those down, because they're wonderful.
I love that, man. I love the way you articulated that. I really, to me, it's a funny thing. First, you said something that I just want to address, actually, let me say one other thing first. So, it's such a simple process. It really is. it's one of those things that it almost feels too simple to work as well as it does, right? Like there's got to be some more magic and wizardry, but it's really not. It's almost like this. If you really wanted to kind of take an ultra simplified view of this, it's almost like this. Just ask yourself this question. Ask yourself, what is it that I could teach to my prospects for, let's say, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, that would truly change their beliefs and their perspective, that would be valuable to them, and that sets up the sale of my product, right? So there's a lot that you can teach, but there's a lot that you can teach that wouldn't necessarily set up the sale for your product, right? Like there's a lot of things that I could talk about as it relates to marketing. Like if I'm doing a video that doesn't necessarily lead to them wanting to use the E5CAM method in the end. So when I'm creating a marketing campaign, those are things that I don't talk about. Those are things that I don't address. The only things that I educate on are the things that lead them closer and closer to saying, I want what Todd's talking about, right? I want what Todd's talking about. At which point, when you present your offer, they're grateful, right? Like it's amazing how they're grateful, because you want to know why? Because they get it here and here. They're excited emotionally and they get it logically. They step back and they say, wow, you know what? David's right. Like I see it. I get it. That's what I need to do. And then you're the guy that says, well, hey, that's why we took 2 years. We spent, $100,000 putting together this platform so that you could enjoy XYZ technology in your business and everything that it does for you. Let me tell you all about Demio and blah, 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 blah. Right. And they're like, thank you, dude, for putting this together. It's amazing when you do it the right way. And so, taking a step back now, you had talked about, like the very first stage of the E5CAM method is the examine stage. And really what we use a few different kind of tools and methods to examine three things. We examine competitors to see what it is that they're saying, what mechanisms are they presenting, what ideas are they presenting, what promise are they making, what are their benefit statements, and what are their offers look like. We then we examine the product, and really what we're doing is we're looking to find the unique mechanism. We don't develop the mechanism out of, just pure genius. That comes right out of the examination stage. And we have to examine competitors first, because if that's the only way that we'll know if we found a unique mechanism or just a mechanism, right? Like, and there's a huge difference between the two. And then we examine prospects, right? And there are tools that we use, like the prospect awareness pyramid, and we use the promise exposure spectrum and whatnot, and a handful of other tools to understand, okay, now that we know what's been said and what hasn't been said, and now that we found within the product the unique mechanism and the benefits, now it's about, let's go and look at prospects so we understand the right promise to make, we understand what to say in their language, we understand how to take what we've just uncovered and turn it into a unique message. And that's when we then go on to the engineering stage. And so, it's one of those steps, David, that a lot of most people just skip because it's tedious. It's not fun, but that's where all the nuggets come from. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's where, that's why if you go back, and I have this somewhere in like an Evernote thing, if you go back and you look at, like Eugene Schwartz, there are quotes from Gene Schwartz, from John Caples, from Brian Kurtz, from Gary Benzavenga. These are top either copywriters or direct marketing legends that talk about the quantity of research that needs to be done, right? Like Gene Schwartz used to talk about, he's like, I'm not a better writer. One of the best copywriters ever to live said in an interview, I'm not a better copywriter. I just outwork most copywriters during the research stage. Right? Like, my friend Joe Schriefer, who runs Agora Financial, he said to me, if I had 4 weeks to create a marketing campaign, I would take 2 weeks to do the examination and research, 1 week to create it, and then 1 week afterwards to tweak it based on data, like to edit it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 2 weeks, half the time researching. Right? It's the whole. What is it? The Abe Lincoln? I don't even know.
Abe Lincoln in the axe.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it, man. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helpful, those 3 things?
Fantastic. I think it's absolutely brilliant. What do you guys think? Any questions for Todd? I would love to hear you guys. People have been saying this is amazing, by the way, here in the comments. But anything that you guys have, any questions that you guys want to ask for Todd while we're here still live? Anything around maybe the unique mechanism or, that research phase or engineering stage? And while we do that, I just want to ask you this question. And I'd love to ask people this. And a lot of times on this show, we have maybe SaaS entrepreneurs or e-com entrepreneurs. I think, you'll be in a kind of a different area, but I love this kind of this question because it's kind of an introspective question. Everything that you've learned and everything that you've done and where you are now, knowing the journey and everything that you went through, if you look back, would you still go back through this journey again? Would you do it all the same? Or what would you maybe impart to yourself on a younger Todd starting out? What would you impart on yourself as far as what to think about on the journey itself?
Wow.
It's tough, right?
That's gonna make that might make me cry thinking about. I love the question, man. And I love and I appreciate how just how you're a deep thinker, man. And I so appreciate that about you, man. Like, I love you and I'll have to spend a lot more time just chatting about life.
I do it a lot.
Yeah. I think to keep things within a business context, first of all, I would do it all over in a heartbeat because while there are always ups and downs in every area of life. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, they could be even more severe ups and downs. I don't think there's anything more rewarding and more liberating than having your own business. Even through the tough times, there's just something special about it. So yes, I do it all over again if it was even the same exact journey.
That's awesome.
With that being said, I think there are 2 things that come to mind and from a business perspective that I would do differently. Number 1 is I would have built a team much earlier on. I think I had this mindset for so long that like if I pay somebody $1,000 a month, $500 a week, whatever the, and back then I was like, hey, maybe I'll outsource something for 5 hours a week and, whatever. I was like, that's going to cost me $500. And I allowed myself to view it as a cost rather than an investment. I didn't realize that when you do it right, there's a positive return on your investment, that $500 investment that you might make into your very first team member, that individual is either going to free up your time to do higher value activities, or they're going to give you more enjoyment in your business by doing the things that you don't like, or they're going to improve things for you, allowing you to be more productive, more effective by doing things better than you could do them. And so that was a mistake that I made, and that held me back. And, and I think some of that, David, came from, I looked at it as a cost, not an investment, and also just a lack of belief in myself. Like thinking, not only am I, I was already like, I'm not an entrepreneur. How could I do this? Then I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to have a team. I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to, and that's all just nonsense, man. You're dealing with real people who for the most part want to do good work, right? Like they just want a place to be where they can be recognized and earn a nice living. And so that was one. The other one is a little bit more advanced. Knowing what I know today, the thing that I would do differently is also what I routinely share as the thing that holds most entrepreneurs back from really growing their business as big and as fast as they can. And that is, I would have been much more aggressive earlier on with what I was willing to invest to get a new customer. In other words, right, and we talked about, and just to put this in context for everybody, there are 3 levels of what I call acquisition aggression when you are an entrepreneur. And when I say acquisition, I'm talking about acquiring customers, generating customers through your front end marketing. So the first level is really like the mom and pop. The mom and pop business owner, the typical brick and mortar business owner, they look at marketing as and acquiring customers as every single sale that I make needs to have profit. There needs to be a certain margin, whether it's 50%, right? Like, if I spend $1,000, that means I need to, I need to get back at least $2,000 in sales. Excuse me, like they typically start with all of my clients, and that is at break even. That just means. And that is to generate transactions at a profit. The second level, where I start almost all my clients that are just getting started, is break even on acquiring new customers. Meaning, you spend $1,000 on Facebook ads. Our aim is to just generate enough customers to recoup that $1,000. Right. And there's a tremendous advantage when you're willing to just break even. You could spend a lot more to acquire a single new customer. Like, in other words, if you're competing with somebody who has to be at a 50% margin, you could spend double what they're willing to spend to acquire a new customer, meaning you could use more channels than them. You could do things that they just won't be willing to do because they want to generate a profit. And so the beauty is that when you're able to spend or invest $1,000 into Facebook or Google AdWords or Instagram or whatever, or small space advertising, direct mail, you're essentially building your business for free, right? Because there's no cost. Your bank account isn't any less today than it was 5 days ago. You're growing your business for free. You're acquiring customers for free. You're building a list of prospects for free. And remember, the money in this business, the profit in this business is on the back end, on the second transaction, the third transaction, the fourth transaction. And so that's where the money is in this business. That really, a better way to say that, David, is that is the business we're in. The business we're in is the back end. The front end is just for customer acquisition. And then we have the third level. And the third level is once your business matures and you have metrics and you have cash in the bank, you're able to go negative. And go negative means you're able to spend more to acquire a customer than what that customer actually spends with you on their first transaction, right? So you're really able to, instead of looking and saying, hey, the average customer spends $100 with me the first time they buy, so I'm only willing to spend $100 to get a customer, right? That's break even, right? Now you say, when you have a more mature business and you've got numbers, metrics, tracking, and you've got cash, now you're able to say, well, yes, the average new customer spends $100 with me on the first transaction, but the average customer then spends another $500 with me over the next 60 days. Some spend more, some spend less, but it averages out to be 500. Well, then the question becomes, what would you invest today to get an asset that gives you $100 today and then gives you another 500 over the next X number of weeks? Right? Well, what you would be willing to spend is based on how much cash you have on hand. And the more aggressive that you are willing to be, it's what's called your maximum allowable acquisition cost. What is the maximum amount of money that you can afford to spend to acquire a customer? Because despite what a lot of marketers have been led to believe, the name of the game is not how can I spend the least amount or invest the least amount. The name of the game is how can I spend double, triple what my competitors can afford to spend and still acquire an asset that's worth, that's profitable for me. Yeah, and that's it, man.
That makes so much sense. And you can see the businesses that go with that approach, you can see their growth so much quicker to the standard business because they're just in the acquisition mode, and their growth is so dependent because they're just reinvesting that cash into acquisition. And I also put into chat here the maximum allowance acquisition cost. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And, and this is also why, sometimes as marketers, we need to be careful, but especially new marketers need to be careful looking at what somebody else in the marketplace is doing, a very successful competitor, a top marketer, and saying, well, that's what I need to do. I'm going to follow their model. I'm going to follow their strategy and their tactics, because you may not know that they're going wildly negative on the front. And right, like Agora, for example, again, I'm fortunate to get to do a lot of consulting with them today. And so I know, for example, at Agora Financial, they don't get to break even for 6 months. That means they are negative on acquiring a customer until the 6-month mark. So in other words, the money, every time they acquire a new customer, right, money comes out of their pocket. They don't get that money back for 6 months on average. But the only reason why they're willing to do that is because they know that after that 6 months, they know what their numbers are, their metrics are, and they know what the average customer is worth, and they have the cash to float that. That's it. Right? That's it. Imagine if you tried to go in and compete with Agora and you weren't willing to go negative, right? Whether it's Agora or it was Bob Smith's company, knowing that they're going, they're not at break even for 6 months. If you were like, hey, I want to generate a profit on the front end, you're dead in the water, because they're going to spend multiples of what you could spend, and they're going to get the customers, right? And so it's just so valuable when you really understand that. I'll leave your folks, all the viewers, with it like this. Think of it as being an investor. That's really what you are. When it comes to, you're investing in the acquisition of assets, assets that are worth a certain amount today, right, in terms of what they spend with you today, and assets that are worth more money over the future. And you have to ask yourself, well, what am I willing to invest to get this asset? Right? And this appreciating asset, right? So it's going to put $100 in my pocket today, and then it's going to put another $500 in my pocket over the next 3 months. Well, so what would I be willing to invest? Anybody would be willing to invest $50 to get that kind of asset, right? Because you immediately double your money, right, on the front end. And then but would you be willing to spend $150? Meaning, right, you spend $150, you get $100 back, and now you make money over the next 3 months. That's the difference. I always look for the maximum amount that I can afford to spend to acquire a new customer.
And one of the things to add to that, guys, one of the things that we discussed at the mastermind is those numbers might change. As you grow your business, as you understand your lifetime value, when you're just starting, you may not know that number. But as you grow, your maximum allowance acquisition cost can also grow with it. So, this is killer stuff. And I hope you guys have all taken mental notes, because that is literally gold. That is right there. It's really, at some level, risk tolerance. When you're first starting, there's risk aversion. You want to play it safe. You don't want to put yourself out. But once you guys have, some of these things in place, then you can really dig deep and go in the investor route, because you're playing the long-term game. You're not playing short-term.
Exactly. And, here's the thing. It's unlike, let's say, investing in stocks. The beauty is that we have numbers that tell us what the average customer is worth. So you're not rolling the dice, right? That's why tracking and metrics are so important. That's why what this game that we play as direct response marketers is all about is it's psychology, communication, and arithmetic. Those are the three. It's psychology, communication, and arithmetic. Arithmetic meaning it's the metrics. It's, all right, what are the numbers? If for those marketers that are not tracking, they're not tracking what is the average their typical client or customer spends with them. If they're not tracking those things, then they're simply guessing at what to do. They're making assumptions. They have no idea, then what they can afford to spend per click. If they don't know, well, if they're not tracking, well, what's an average visitor to my site worth? See, if you know, because you're tracking, if you know, like, all right, when we get 100 people to our site, we get 30 opt-ins. And out of those 30 opt-ins, let's just say we get one sale. And we've seen that with, just hypothetically, and we've seen that with, we've driven 5,000 people, and those are the numbers that play out. Well, when you have those numbers, right, and you've reached a point of statistical reliability, meaning like where if you get more, it's gonna remain really, really close to that 30 opt-ins, one sale. There is no gambling anymore. It's not a gamble. You're not investing like in the stock. It's not hoping that this thing goes up. It's knowing, hey, the average person that hits this bad boy is worth X. And that's what we're all about, looking at the average value of a lead, the average value of a visitor, the average value of a customer. And all those numbers come from the same source, and then just using those to determine how we invest in the acquisition of those assets, those new customers. That's it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And guys, I don't want to take any more of your time. I know you're having a crazy day, and we went over a little bit of our time today. So I think we'll end it there. I think you've absolutely blown me away. You just killed it today. So much good content. So just thank you so much for joining us. As just a note to all of you guys, the E5 camp method, we've been emailing about it for the past week. It is now live as of today. I'm going to pop out just for you guys. There's no pitch today, but just pop out. If you guys wanted to check out more about what we talked about, I just launched a call to action for that E5 masterclass. So you guys can click and check it out. You'll really, really, really not regret just watching the video series, going through it. It's absolutely powerful. And again, I went to the mastermind, so I saw everything. That's why we back it so much. So Kevin had a real quick question, just one last thing he's asking for you to answer. When researching it, it can be difficult to not absorb other ideas subconsciously. How do you ensure the ideas are truly yours and unique?
Well, there's a lot of nuances in that question. So what the superficial answer, which is really the answer, is that you have to start by examining competitors, so that when you develop your ideas and you're pulling them together, what you're really looking at is you're then going to compare it to what's already been said to your marketplace. So don't worry so much about did I generate this, or did I see this in a movie? Or that's neither here nor there. A lot of your ideas will come from things that you've seen, experienced. That's, again, you're pulling in. You're not pulling stuff out of thin air. You're pulling together things that you've read, that you've seen, that you've watched. That's also why, just as a side note, that to come up with big ideas, you have to come up with a lot of ideas. And to come up with a lot of ideas, you have to have a lot of input. Right? These, the people that say I don't watch TV, I don't go to the movies, and I very rarely read. I'm like, well, then where the heck are you getting? Your stuff is going to become stale so quickly. Because what are you pulling from? And so it's all about a lot of input, and then you marinate. Then it's a skill that you can develop, finding connections. And what you want to do is you want to pull things together, and then you want to compare it to what you've uncovered during the examination stage with competitors. So the context is it's less about, is this really my unique idea? Is this really a unique idea? And it's more about, is this unique to what my prospects have heard and seen before? That's all it is. And so hopefully that really answers his question. Let me say one other thing, man, before I jump, totally unrelated to what it is that we've just talked about. And I only say what I mean, dude, and hopefully you know that by now. Thoroughly impressed with this is my first experience with Demio, and I am blown away by the ease at which I got started. The interface, when I clicked the button, I clicked the link, and I was like, it's there. Yeah. And even, what I saw before we went live and what I'm seeing now, and how you were able to pop up that call to action. And so I know, I'm, like I mentioned to you before, I'm really excited to to start to use Demio in our own business. And I can't wait to be able to report back to you, man, all the crazy stuff that we do with it.
I love it, Todd. I can't wait to have you in, man. It's going to be a real supreme honor for us. And, I want to thank you and really just honor your time and really appreciate everything that you gave us today. I feel like I just love listening to you teach. You're just a great teacher. So really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, dude. My honor. And let's do it again. And let's talk soon about us getting started with Demio, man. And thanks for having me on here, dude.
You got it. Absolutely. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for your time.